Hi, I'm Alex Asher, the CEO of LearnCube. Now, LearnCube is a professional virtual classroom for tutoring and language education. And when we're talking to prospects and customers, they ask sometimes, what is the difference between using something like LearnCube versus something like Google Meet? And so I wanted to go through this with you today. So a lot of the time you have a lot of different systems and they don't always work together. You have a way to be able to manage your students and their attendance. And then you have to have another system that you need to be able to manage your classes, your calendar, so that students can book in. And then you need another service in order to take payment. And you need another service to be able to take payment via credit card. And then you need another service to be able to do your reporting. And so it starts looking very fractured. Including possibly using freeware like, maybe it's Google Meet, maybe it's something else, but maybe you're not very happy with that because it doesn't really feel like a solution that's made specifically for education. Google Meet, Zoom, these are all fantastic products and all very well known, but they always started off as either being something like Skype, where it was made about connecting people, in a consumer market, or it was made for business meetings. And the world has moved on and is expecting more. And so how can we provide a more professional experience? So starting off, let's have a look at Google Meet. So you can see Google Meet here is, a lot of people are really familiar with this. Basically, you send a link, people open the link, there's no real sign in. I think sometimes you'll be asked to actually put in your name, but basically you get this kind of view. And it's a great video conferencing software, and it's actually done using the same technology that LearnCube uses, which is the video and audio is delivered through the web browser. One of the great things about that is it's very easy. There's nothing to download. We can update things as we need. We can keep things improving in the background without requiring students or teachers or users to have to literally download or update their software. We can do any kind of update instantaneously. So that's one thing in the background to keep in mind. But you can see here the experience. And I guess one of the first things you might note is, on one side it's very familiar. On the other side, it is literally so ubiquitous that there's nothing stand out about it. You could get this from any tutor on the street. Now let's talk a little bit about what the experience might look like. So in Google Meet, we can actually have a couple of different formats. I can show those to you here. We can change the layout, and effectively there's not too many different layouts, but those are all possible and you can access those here. A lot of what you do on Google Meet is sharing of the screen. And so you access this here and you can share the entire window and tab and so forth. And finally, you do have your chat, which you can do here, and Emily might write something back to me as well. That's all available through Google Meet. I'm just going to have a look at a Jamboard, which is what Google Meet use for their whiteboarding. And so that's one thing I'd really like to differentiate, is that your Jamboard or your whiteboard with Google is a completely separate app, basically. To Google Meet. They're separate. In some way they interact, in some ways they kind of work together, but literally they are two completely different services. So I'm going to try sharing a lot of what happens is you share the screen with a particular material, and I'm going to give an example of that now. So I just need to share my screen. I go to let's go to a window. I'll choose this, and we're in. And so this is maybe the experience for Google Meet, and I can, for example, scroll down that. But again, it can get a little bit awkward because when you're sharing a screen, it's not right there. You have to kind of at least have two different windows and try and organize those so you can see the two different areas and then kind of work through something with the student. Maybe you could take an image and put it into a Jamboard, and I'm going to show you what that Jamboard experience looks like now. But effectively, you go over here to Activities, you click on Whiteboarding, and then you can start a new whiteboard. So let's go, have to work out your permissions. I'm going to send this whiteboard now. So you can see how it opens up as a separate window again. So now I've got Google Meet open, I've got the whiteboard open, and now I also need to share this with Emily. So I can present the tab to the meeting. Let's try that. So we can add images, we can add circles, we can add text. I have to actually, this is an example. I actually have to provide edit access for Emily. Now what I can do as well is I can be in a different whiteboard, I believe, to Emily. You can have unlimited whiteboards, which is kind of a cool feature. Basically, two people can be in two different parts of the whiteboard, which is a little bit tricky if you're wanting people to actually interact with each other on the same page. If you are using a Jamboard though, you can't actually access the Jamboard without signing in, which also means that your students will have to have an account with Google in order for them to use a Google Whiteboard or a Jamboard like this. It does mean that there's probably some extra instructions that you may need to deal with. And if you're dealing with parents, that can be a little bit troublesome to have, as I say, these two different experiences. And particularly on a mobile device, you actually have the Jamboard app here, which is separate entirely to the Google Meet app. So again, on mobile, while it might seem like it could work quite well, they do feel quite separated. Google Meet is all about the video conference, all about that video experience, whereas the Jamboard is all about that interaction potentially with the student. Next, you really don't have much of an idea in terms of attendance. So at the moment, like, obviously Emily's in here, but she put her full name. If she was a guest or a different user, you might find it difficult to get the names actually matching up with the names that are in your user management system, because probably you're using an online tutoring platform that's a bit different. One of the other things you'll notice is there's not really a way for you to annotate on top of that shared screen. And so I think one of the downsides as well is that you're not really having that sense of interactivity, and it can really put a lot of students into the back seat and into a more kind of passive position with their learning, which if your tutoring is not really where you want to be, we can't really interact at all onto that screen share, which in my view can be a bit of a problem, because I mean the idea behind sharing something is you want people to be taking action, and ideally you might be wanting them to underline kind of the areas they don't understand, or really kind of engage with some of the questions that might be around it. Likewise, if I go back to the whiteboard, so the whiteboard, I can't actually, first of all, I have to click on Emily's avatar to know where she is. And if you have a number of students, again, you have to be fairly advanced with understanding how to find those students and make sure that everyone's in the same page. But sometimes it's not quite as obvious on the identity of who's writing what. And if you're really wanting to control, potentially students from, this particularly if you're working with younger children or people that are not playing by your instructions, it can be a little bit frustrating. So that's kind of a quick overview of the Google Meet experience. What you can see here as well is it's not branded at all. If you're running a tutoring or language business, your brand is very, very important to you. So you don't get that through Google in the same way. What I would say is it does feel quite a disconnected experience, the whiteboard from Google Meet. And Google Meet in itself is probably going to feel quite different to your general online tutoring platform. They're distinct apps, they work differently, and sometimes, unless you've really got it connected well, they may not give you the information that you want. Google Meet may not be that helpful in terms of if you're running one of these world-class tutoring business, they may not be able to give you the data that you need when you need it. So I'm going to show you LearnCube and show you how that might differentiate. The thing that I would really stress though is that LearnCube is an all-in-one solution, whereas Google Meet will provide one part of what you're doing. And by having them quite separately, and particularly the fact that Google Meet and the Jamboard are separate applications, you may find that really adds a lot more confusion, a lot more extra work on teachers, And teachers that aren't enjoying the system are more likely to leave you. That may have an entirely different cost, a cost that may seem invisible, but increased, teacher churn. If teachers aren't enjoying the environment, or they're feeling like they're having to do lots of extra work, or there's a higher cognitive load for no extra pay, that can really be a downside of choosing something that's basically a freeware. So again, maybe there's a lower cost by using freeware, but you also do have extra costs in terms of your administration, your teacher happiness, potentially your teacher retention, and also your student retention. LearnCube is about providing you with the branding and the professionalism and all of the tools that not just your tutors are going to need, but also you as administrators are going to need to deliver world-class education. So when I'm talking to customers, a lot of the time they're saying, I'm looking for something all-in-one. We're looking for something that I don't have to manage lots of systems. I can deal with one provider that manages it all and really understands my business. They're looking for something that's streamlined so that they don't have to work as hard. So they've got processes in place to make it easy to manage. When you have lots and lots of different systems, you have lots of different breakpoints, potentially fragility in your systems. And that can be quite difficult because maybe you understand all the systems, but it makes it harder for you to train other people up on those systems. It requires a lot more training and time with your teachers to figure out protocols. It takes a lot of time sometimes for your students to really get their heads around that they need to be here and they're going to get this email reminder and this is going to be sort of separate from this system, but it'll all some kind of work together. And again, it kind of works up to a certain scale, but there's a point where it stops working so well. And that's the time that you should be really thinking about a professional system that manages all of these different services in one particular solution. And that's what we have with the LearnCube online school. And what makes LearnCube's online school so unique is, firstly, it was built for the purpose of helping tutoring companies and language companies grow and scale their business. It's in fact how we started our own business until we actually got into the business of building the technology for people like yourselves. So you're wanting something that manages all of those systems, that's made for the purpose. And I'm going to talk to you about LearnCube and particularly some of the key areas to take away. So let me just show you. So this is the LearnCube online school. And what immediately jumps off the page is that this has everything that you might need to be able to deliver professional, profitable live online classes. So let's have a look at some of the benefits of it. Firstly, you have everything in one place. So let's start off with the most common thing, which is being able to create classes. So here you can add a single class, you can add a class that happens every week or at a certain time every week. You can manage a course schedule, so that can be a sequence of classes. And so all of that is in this one place. Likewise, if you're wanting to talk about availability, let's show that here. We can click on our calendar, and this is where we can add our own availability, whether that might be recurring basis or a one-off basis. And the benefit of having your availability is it means that you can provide availability to your students and they can self-enroll in times that suit you. So that might be a 30-minute session, or you might actually offer 60-minute classes. So this is where this is all possible in this one system. Next, you kind of really want to think about the experience for the learner. And so if we go into one of these classes, you can really prepare for the class ahead of schedule. So you're not having to muck around before the session. Everything is ready for you. We have a lot of systems designed to make it as easy as possible to deliver live classes and ensure a high degree of reliability. So if I go in, I can do that here. You can see that we can see everything, and again, in one place. What's incredibly unique about LearnCube's virtual classroom is that it is, again, an all-in-one system. The whiteboard is connected with the video and audio The chat is here. We actually have some exceptional features here with the chat, including even translating text. We have things like being able to change the format of the class. And I'm actually going to show you some of the tools that really stand out and will help you with your tutoring or language education. So here you have a single whiteboard. Now, again, you have the tools that you would expect, things like annotating, things like shapes, and things that might be helpful for a range of different ages. You have things like being able to draw, get arrows. You also have things like math tools to be able to manage your classes in a more professional way. But again, a lot of teachers may also just want to be able to write, be able to see what is written in real time. So every letter is shown. Again, this is very important for educators because they're looking for ways and looking for every bit of feedback they can in order to improve their teaching. I'm going to show you the most important thing, though, is it's not just about the tools that you can put on the page. It's actually about the materials that you can access immediately from LearnCube. So think of LearnCube not only as the whiteboard at the front of the class, but also all of the resources you could want at the touch of a button. So I'm going to add one here, and you can see it loads beautifully into the whiteboard. Now, again, remember there are different views, and I'm showing one particular view. So here it would all be available for you. I'm going to stop this video simply, to show you that that's how easy it is for you to be able to manage your microphones and cameras, both of yourself, but also of your students, which is particularly important if you're doing more group work. LearnCube is all about interactivity, and that's the thing that really separates us again, is that whiteboarding and collaboration is not just a side of it. It is all about that interaction in the class, and the whiteboard is that central piece, and the piece that we really specialize in and have really made the tools for effective tutoring language education. So things that you could also maybe expect is being able to stop students from getting ahead of themselves and going to different parts of the page or parts of the materials that you're sharing. You also have the ability to stop people from annotating on particular materials that can get really irritating for tutors after a time, or if they're finding it that they don't have the tools to be able to manage that. And so all of this is available here in the LearnCube classroom. But with these materials, each page is unique. It's all paginated, and one of the great things about it is it means that when you annotate on the page, unlike a screen share, the actual annotations are saved on that particular page. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because when you have all of your materials, you've done this fantastic session, you've actually got a product that you can pass on to the particular learner or student. So this is what we call our past class review or post-class review. And so what that post-class review does is it means that you, if you're a tutor, don't have to kind of create screenshots or send the kind of summary of what was taught as a separate file. You don't even need to send a link. It's already in the platform. Secondly, your students can access that same link. They can see all the notes, what was taught and what was done. And finally, you as administrators and business owners and decision makers can also see what was done in a class. And that's really helpful from a safeguarding perspective and ensuring really high quality, which is the most important thing as you start scaling, is to ensure that you have systems to ensure that your system really stands out. So I'm going to go to another part of what LearnCube can do, because if you take that one step further, is we've done all of this great materials, but how can I start, where I left off in the previous session? You can do that with LearnCube. So you can pull up any of the past classes and load all of the materials that were saved at the end of those classes. So it creates this wonderful sense of continuity. Other things that really show you're a professional are things like branding. So again, where you can see LearnCube and the background there, those are actually options that you can make feel like your own. use your own colorways, use your own logo, and really present your brand. Because again, as you scale your business, you don't want students just to connect with the tutor and the teacher. You want those students to really connect with your brand, which you're really offering much more than just a place for the tutor and student to connect. And that's what it is. It's about in terms of creating that professional experience. Of course, you can do things like screen share, but also when you screen share, I'm going to do that now, you can actually annotate on the screen share itself. So let's go back again to what that experience looks like on LearnCube. You have all of your materials accessible, tap of a button. One thing I will show you is the fact that you can just drag and drop images into the whiteboard. Likewise, you can just drag and drop YouTube videos. I'll do that now. And just copy, Control-C, Control-V, and in pops your YouTube video. The YouTube video means that you can actually control the pace as well. You're the one that takes it forward or back or pause it. It's a fantastic experience. So once that's all done, you end that class and decide to leave. You can add your class summary of what was taught. You can rate the class, and likewise the student can not only rate the teacher but also the classroom as well. Of course, we want to always ensure that you have the best classroom experience possible, but likewise you as an administrator and manager of your online school or online tutoring platform can also see the ratings from each of the classes. This is a very important part of ensuring that you can scale and keep the quality up. So once I'm back into the platform, what are some of the other things that were painful for a lot of companies? Where do they have all of their student files? You can access those here. You can see all of your students. We deal with all the credits. So what happens with LearnCube is you have a system of credits to be able to manage how many classes or sessions a student can do. Very easy. Going into a particular student, edit the account, and you can change the number of credits a student is allowed. So on top of student management, you have teacher management. With teacher management, you can also deal with things like role permissions, which again protects your database, protects your business, and provides a level of protection against potentially rogue teachers that may misuse your system or your database. Likewise, you have a central library. So if you want to load anything that is shared across all of your teachers, you can do it that way. So you have a central library as well. You have other reporting as well. Let's have a look at some of the past class reporting. This is, again, a real difference to the alternative, which might be using spreadsheets or a different system entirely. Again, you have verifiable reporting on when classes were done. I'm going to go for a particular date range. And you can see here, while this is test data, you can see if teachers showed up, did they show up on time, and even again, going back into class review or homework, which is a feature that we also have, but I won't go into detail here because it's another piece that LearnCube offers that helps you deliver a better experience, and particularly helping that experience not just in the classroom itself, but between sessions. So we have the classroom, the class review, we have homework. If you are really, if you think it's very important to have video recordings, we have video recordings, all accessible here, all accessible in one system, in one platform, and in one solution. So think about, at the moment, you might be having some pain with all of these fragmented systems, from using Google Drive for this. You might use Zoom or Google Meet for a classroom. You might have video recordings somewhere. You might have your reports in several sheets. You might be forcing teachers to provide notes in a certain way. Email reminders was not something that I went through, but we provide automated email reminders that notify students of upcoming classes, both for tutors and for students. You might be thinking of, how do I, write my class notes? How do I manage feedback? All of this is dealt with in LearnCube. And so that's why I would highly recommend you to try us out, to check it and to talk to our team. And the best way to start is actually by going to LearnCube.com, signing up for a free trial, and that's of our virtual classroom, because we really want you to be totally sold on the actual classroom experience. That's the thing that we stand out with. It's exceptional, and I think you'll really love it. And if that seems to be a green light for you, then to consider our online school. It's an all-in-one solution. We provide lots of resources to help you both configure it in the way that you need it. There's lots of flexibility there, some really unique workflows that we can help with automating and systemizing parts of your business, from student enrollment to what a student sees when they sign up, or if they sign up at all. We provide lots of support in that configuration process. We provide lots of support in terms of the training, both for your administrators and for your tutors and teachers, because we want you to be able to make the most of all of the wonders of the technology. So make sure you sign up at www.learncube.com. There's a free trial there. You can really experience the virtual classroom, and that's what we highly recommend you do. Really test out the different features, and I think you'll have a blast and really see that this is the perfect tool for tutoring and language education. So that again is www.learncube.com. See you soon.